There's a specific kind of heartbreak that only happens in coffee shops. You're waiting for your order, half listening to the background music, and you realize the voice coming through the speakers belongs to the person making your drink. She recorded it herself. It's astonishing. The kind of voice that should be filling a stadium, bouncing off the rafters while 10,000 phones light up. And instead, it's filling a room the size of a garage, competing with the hiss of a milk steamer, being ignored by everyone except you and occasionally maybe a dog. You want to say something. You want to grab her by the apron and say, "Do you understand what you have? Do you understand that you are better than the people whose faces are on billboards?" But you don't, because that would be strange. And also, because you'd have to answer the obvious follow-up question, which is, then why am I still making your latte? And you don't have a good answer. Not really. You have two bad ones, and you've probably reached for both at different times. The first bad answer is, it's luck. She just hasn't caught her break yet. The universe is a giant raffle. Some people's tickets get drawn and some don't. And hers is still swirling around in the drum. Keep going. Keep believing. One day the algorithm gods will smile. The second bad answer is darker and more satisfying to the wounded part of your brain. It's rigged. There's a machine, a cabal, a smoke-filled room where a handful of powerful people decide who gets to be famous, and they pick their friends and their nephews and whoever's willing to sell their soul, and talent has nothing to do with it. The good ones get buried on purpose. The system is corrupt. Now, here's what I want to do next. I want to take both of those answers away from you, because neither one is true. And this is the part that surprised me when I first worked through it. The actual answer is more interesting, more logical, and strangely, more freeing than either the fairy tale or the conspiracy. Fame is not random, and fame is not a conspiracy. My friends, fame is a spreadsheet. Let me show you the math. Welcome to a new episode from English Plus with Danny. Now let's start by talking about why you bet on 5, not 100. Imagine you run a record label, or a film studio, or a publishing house. Pick whichever fantasy suits you, and imagine I hand you a marketing budget. Let's make it a nice, round, imaginary $10 million. And a roster of 100 genuinely talented people. Not 100 pretty faces with nothing behind them. No, genuinely talented people. 100 real, capable, worth your time artists. Your job is to turn that 10 million into as much revenue as you possibly can. You have two broad strategies. Strategy 1 is the fair one, the one your conscience like. You divide the 10 million evenly. Every artist gets $100,000 of promotion. A fair shot for everyone. A level playing field. It feels good. It feels just. Now, strategy 2 is the ugly one. You pick 5. You look at your 100 talented people, and through some combination of instinct, data, timing, and a little bit of coldness, you pick 5, and you pour $2 million into each of them. The other 95 get almost nothing. Maybe a press release, a prayer, or a spot on a playlist nobody checks. Now, which strategy makes more money? Now, if the world were fair, if attention scaled in a nice straight line, if $100,000 of promotion reliably produced $100,000 worth of fans, and 2 million produced 20 times that and no more, then it wouldn't matter. Both strategies would net out the same. spread it thin or pile it high, the total is the total. But the world is not a straight line. And this is the single most important sentence I want you to keep in mind. So I'm going to say it slowly. The returns on attention are not linear. They curve upward. They compound. Getting someone from 0 fans to 1,000 fans is hard, is expensive, and slow. But getting someone from 1,000,000 fans to 2,000,000? That's almost automatic. Because at 1,000,000 fans, other forces take over. The press wants to cover them because they're already a story. Playlists and feeds recommend them because they're already popular. And recommending popular things is safe. People share them because sharing them signals that you have taste, that you were there. Fame past a certain threshold becomes self-feeding. It stops costing money and starts making it. So, the artist you push to 2,000,000 fans doesn't earn you 20 times what a $100,000 artist earns. They earn you 100 times that, maybe 1,000 times. Because they didn't just get bigger. They crossed the line where the world starts doing your marketing for you for free. This is why the ugly strategy wins. Every time. Not sometimes, every time over a large enough sample. Now, if you spread your 10 million evenly across 100 artists, you get 100 people with modest local followings, none of whom ever crosses that magic threshold where fame becomes self-sustaining. 100 pleasant, forgettable careers. Steady mediocrity. Smallish returns. And crucially, no superstar. No stadium act. No franchise. No cultural event that prints money for a decade. If you concentrate that same 10 million on 5 people, you probably create at least 1, maybe 2 genuine superstars. The kind who generate more revenue than your other 98 artists combined. The concentrated bet is riskier for any individual, but as a portfolio, it crushes the fair strategy. An economist named Sherwin Rosen wrote about this back in 1981 in a paper with the almost comically blunt title, The Economics of Superstars. His insight was that in certain markets, tiny differences in talent get amplified into enormous differences in reward, not because the best are 1,000 times better than the merely very good, but because technology and scale let one person serve the entire market at once. You don't need a slightly worse singer in every town when the best singer can be everywhere, all at once, through a speaker in a coffee shop. Later, 2 thinkers named Robert Frank and Philip Cook gave this its most memorable name, the winner-take-all market. A market where being second best isn't half as good as being best. It's a rounding error. So look again at that barista. She isn't unknown because she lacks talent. She's unknown because nobody bet $2 million on her. She was one of the 95. And there was nothing personal about it. No villain sneered at her demo and threw it in the trash. She just wasn't the number the machine decided to concentrate on. The machine has to concentrate on someone. It concentrates on a few by design because concentration is where the money is. So, my friends, that's not a conspiracy. That's a spreadsheet doing exactly what a spreadsheet does. And now, let's talk about the uncomfortable thing about talent. Now, I need to be careful here, because it would be very easy to walk away from that last section believing that talent doesn't matter at all, that fame is purely a function of budget, that you could take any random person off the street, pour $2 million into them, and manufacture a superstar. Well, let me tell you, that's not true either, and the truth is more subtle. Talent is necessary. It's just not sufficient. Think of it like a nightclub with a bouncer. Talent gets you past the velvet rope. Below a certain level of ability, no amount of marketing will save you. Audiences aren't infinitely foolish, and a genuinely bad singer with a huge budget usually becomes a punchline rather than a star. So you have to be good. You have to clear the bar. Talent is the ticket that lets you into the room. But here's the uncomfortable part. Once you're inside the room, once you've cleared the bar, talent stops being the thing that sorts you. Inside the room, everyone is talented. Everyone cleared the bar. And now the question isn't who is good, because they all are. The question is who gets the $2 million of promotion? And that question is answered by other things entirely. Timing, whether your face fits a trend, whether a decision maker had a good breakfast the day your name came up, whether you happen to release in a quiet week or a crowded one, whether someone with power took a liking to you, whether the machine, for 1,000 reasons that have nothing to do with your voice, decided you were the number. So when you meet someone extraordinary who never made it, you're not looking at a failure of talent. You're looking at someone who cleared the bar, who was in the room, and simply wasn't the one the budget landed on. There might have been 50 people in that room just as good. The machine could only push 5. That's not a tragedy of merit. It's a tragedy of arithmetic. And this is why just be talented and you'll make it is such a cruel lie. Not because talent is worthless. It's the entry fee and you can't skip it. But because it's the entry fee to a lottery, not the winning ticket. The people telling you talent is enough have usually confused their own luck for their own excellence. We'll come back to them, because they deserve a whole section. Now, there's a strange grief in accepting this. We desperately want the world to be a meritocracy, because meritocracy feels fair and it feels safe. If the best always win, then I just have to become the best. But the honest version is scarier and, I'd argue, more useful. Being excellent is something you can control, and it's necessary, and it's worth doing for its own sake. Being chosen is something you largely can't control, and it's not the same thing as being excellent, and pretending otherwise will slowly poison your relationship with your own work. Hold on to that thought. It will soon become the whole point. Now let's talk about the algorithm, which is just a studio that never sleeps. Now, you might be thinking, fine, that's the old world. Record labels, film studios, publishing houses, gatekeepers in expensive suits. But we blew all that up, didn't we? We have platforms now. Anyone can upload. Anyone can post. The gatekeepers are dead. The playing field is finally level. I have some bad news about the playing field, my friends. When social media arrived, it made a beautiful promise, and for a brief, shining moment, we all believed it. No more gatekeepers. Your talent goes straight to the audience. If you're good, people will find you, and merit will finally win. The algorithm, we were told, is neutral. It just shows people what's good. Now, here's the thing the algorithm doesn't want you to think about too hard. A platform is a business, a very large, very hungry business, usually answerable to shareholders who would like the number to go up every quarter forever. And that business faces the exact same choice our record label faced. It has a finite resource, not a marketing budget this time, but something even more precious. Attention. Human attention. Eyeballs. Hours in the day. And it has to decide how to distribute that attention across millions of creators. It could distribute attention fairly. It could take everyone's content and give each piece an equal, rotating shot at the audience so that a brilliant video from a nobody gets the same push as a brilliant video from a somebody. A true meritocracy of the feed. And you know what would happen? The platform would make less money. Because, and this is the exact same curve from before, concentrated attention is worth more than distributed attention. A creator with 10 million followers is not worth 10 times a creator with a million. They're worth far more because they're a reliable, self-sustaining engine of engagement. They bring their audience with them. They generate events, controversies, trends, must-see moments that keep people glued to the platform and therefore glued to the advertising. 10 mega creators are more valuable to the platform than 1,000 medium ones with the same total follower count for exactly the same reason 5 superstars beat 100 steady earners. So, the algorithm, even a perfectly well-intentioned one, even one with no villain behind it, drifts toward concentration. It amplifies what's already big, because amplifying what's already big is the safe, profitable bet. This has a name that predates the internet by decades. Sociologists call it the Matthew effect, after the biblical line about how to those who have, more will be given. The rich get richer. The seen get more seen. Attention flows to where attention already is, because that's where the returns compound. And notice, this doesn't require anyone to be evil. Nobody has to sit in a room and decide to bury the little guy. The system produces that outcome all on its own, because every individual decision to recommend the popular thing is individually reasonable and collectively brutal. The algorithm isn't rigged against you. It's just optimized for something that isn't you. That's it. This is why the conspiracy theory is so seductive and so wrong at the same time. It feels like there must be a hand on the scale, because the results look so lopsided. And there is a hand on the scale, but it's not a shadowy human hand. It's the invisible hand of an incentive gradient, and it's pushing in the same direction all day, every day, with no meetings and no memos. The math doesn't need a conspiracy. The math is the conspiracy if you insist on the word. But it's the most boring conspiracy in the world. It's just a business model, that's it. So, the great YouTuber with 400 subscribers making genuinely better videos than the channels with 4 million? Same story as the barista. She cleared the bar, he's in the room, the algorithm just never decided she was the number. And it never decided that because deciding that wouldn't obviously make the number go up. And making the number go up is the only thing the algorithm was ever built to care about. Now let's talk about something else, related of course, and it's a huge part of this superstar machine. The lottery that keeps everyone playing. If the whole system just concentrated relentlessly on the few, if the rich only ever got richer cleanly and predictably, then eventually the rest of us would notice and quit. Why would you keep making videos into the void? Keep publishing books nobody reads? Keep uploading songs to an audience of your mom and a bot if the game were visibly, provably rigged toward people who already made it? Why would you do that? You wouldn't. And the platforms know you wouldn't. Which is why the system has a second mechanism, and this one is a masterpiece of accidental psychology. It's not enough to have superstars. You also need lottery winners. You need the occasional nobody to somebody story. The person who posted a video from their bedroom on a Tuesday and woke up on Friday with 4 million views. The unknown author whose self-published book became a phenomenon. The busker who got filmed by a stranger and was on a morning show within a week. These stories are not bugs in the system. They are load-bearing infrastructure. And to understand why, we have to talk about a man, some pigeons, and a lever. In the middle of the last century, a Harvard psychologist named B.F. Skinner spent a great deal of time putting animals in boxes and watching what made them press levers. He was mapping the mechanics of reward, how creatures learn to repeat behaviors that pay off. And he discovered something that would go on to explain slot machines, gambling addiction, and, though he never lived to see it, why you check your phone 40 times an hour. Skinner found that if you reward a behavior every single time, press the lever, get a treat, reliably, always, the animal learns the behavior, but it also learns to relax. It presses when it's hungry, gets its treat, and stops. Predictable rewards produce predictable, moderate, easily satisfied behavior. And if you ever stop the rewards, the animal quits almost immediately, because it notices right away that the deal is off. But if you reward the behavior unpredictably, press the lever and sometimes you get a treat, sometimes nothing, and you can never tell which press will pay off, something completely different happens. The animal goes into a kind of frenzy. It presses and presses and presses far more than the reliably rewarded animal ever did. And when you stop the rewards entirely, it keeps pressing for a very long time because it can't tell the difference between no reward this time and the deal is off. The unpredictability makes the behavior obsessive and almost impossible to extinguish. Well, the lesson behind all that? It is not the expected reward that hooks us. It's the unexpected one. Predictability produces mild, satisfiable interest. Unpredictability produces the compulsive, hopeful, can't look away pressing that we would, in a human, call addiction. Now look at your feed with those pigeon goggles on. Every time you open the app, you pull a lever. Most of the time, nothing much happens. A few likes, a bland afternoon, business as usual. But every so often, something pops. A post takes off. A stranger says something kind. The number jumps. You didn't see it coming, and you can't reliably make it happen again, and that is precisely the point. That's the treat that arrives on the unpredictable schedule. That's the thing that keeps you posting. And the biggest, most powerful version of that unpredictable treat isn't your own small pop. It's the story of the lottery winner. Because when you see that some ordinary person with no special training and no obvious gift went from zero to famous overnight, your brain does the most human thing imaginable. It thinks, if them, why not me? And that single thought, if them, why not me, is worth more to a platform than almost anything else, because it's the thought that keeps 100 million people producing free content day after day, chasing a payoff that arrives just often enough, and just unpredictably enough to keep the whole box of pigeons pressing the lever. My friends, the lottery winners are not evidence that the system is fair. They are the mechanism by which the system stays populated. A lottery with no winners collapses. Nobody buys tickets. A lottery with a few loud, well-publicized winners can sustain millions of losers indefinitely. All of them quietly certain that they're one good post away from being the next story. The occasional random success isn't in tension with the concentration machine. It works hand in hand with it. The machine makes the superstars. The lottery keeps everyone else feeding the machine while hoping to become one. And notice how elegant, how efficient, how genuinely amoral this is. Nobody has to force you to keep posting. Nobody has to trick you, exactly. The system just has to occasionally, unpredictably, let someone win and let you watch it happen, and your own beautiful, hopeful, pigeon-adjacent brain does the rest. And now let's talk about the guru economy, or selling maps to a territory made of weather. Now there's one more layer, and it is my favorite, because it's the most human and the most absurd. Once you have a system where a few people win big, a lot of people lose, and the wins look magical and random, you create a perfect market for a certain kind of product. Not a good or service, hope. Packaged and sold. Enter the guru. You've seen them. The person who cracked the algorithm. The one who'll teach you the secret system, the 10-step framework, the posting schedule, the hook formula, the thing that separates the people who make it from the people who don't. They have a course. The course is on sale, but only until midnight. And there are only a few spots left, and if you have to think about it, you clearly don't want it badly enough. Now, I want to be fair here, because there is real knowledge in this world. Some people genuinely understand craft, marketing, storytelling, the mechanics of a good thumbnail or strong opening line. Learning is real. Skill is real. I'm not telling you that every person who has ever taught anything is a fraud, because that would be a stupid thing to say. And also, I run a magazine that teaches things, so, I have opinions. But here's the trap at the heart of the guru economy, and it has a name: survivorship bias. When someone makes it, really makes it, that overnight lottery kind of makes it, they do the most natural thing in the world. They look back at what they did and they construct a story. I posted consistently. I used this kind of hook. I niched down. I engaged with my community. And that's why I succeeded. And they believe it completely, sincerely. They're not lying to you. They're lying to themselves first and then passing it along in good faith. The problem is that 10,000 other people did the exact same things. Posted consistently, used the same hooks, niched down, engaged with their communities, and got nothing. We never hear from those 10,000 because failure doesn't get a course. Failure doesn't get a stage. Failure quietly deletes the account and goes back to a normal job. So the only voices we hear are the voices of the winners. And the winners, almost by definition, can't tell the difference between the parts of their success that were skill and the enormous part that was landing on the right number at the right moment. It's like interviewing lottery winners about their winning strategy. Every single one will have a system, a lucky number, a favorite gas station, some kind of a ritual, and every single one will be certain the system worked because it worked for them. And the system will be worth exactly nothing. Because the thing that actually happened was that a random number generator picked their ticket out of 10 million. But you can't sell it was mostly random, can you? Nobody buys the course called Do Good Work and then basically pray. So the winners reach for a story. The story sells and an entire industry blossoms on top of the gap between what people did and why it actually worked. The vast majority of these gurus then aren't con artists in the mustache-twirling sense. Something more interesting is going on. They're mostly people who won a lottery and mistook it for a skill, now confidently teaching that skill to people who will mostly not win the same lottery, no matter how perfectly they follow the steps. And a smaller, more cynical subset has figured out that the real business was never the thing they got famous for. The real business is selling the dream of becoming famous to the people watching. The trending content is just the storefront. The course is the product. The lottery winners are the advertising, and hope is the thing on the shelf. If this sounds bleak, well, stay with me because the next part is where it turns. Because now we're going to ask ourselves a very important question. So now what do we do with all this? Let me gather up what we've got, because it is a lot, I know. And then let me tell you why I think it's ultimately good news rather than bad. You remember we said fame concentrates because concentrated attention is worth exponentially more than distributed attention. Like 5 superstars beat 100 steady earners every time on the spreadsheet. Talent is the entry fee to the game, not the winning ticket. Once you're in the room, other forces decide who the budget lands on. The algorithm didn't fix this. It automated it, drifting toward the already big because that's the safe, profitable bet, no villain required. And the whole system is kept populated by a dopamine lottery, the occasional unpredictable overnight winner, which hooks the rest of us exactly the way an unpredictable reward hooks any creature with a brain. And floating on top of the entire arrangement is an industry that sells the map to a territory that's mostly weather. Now, you could take all of that and curl into a ball, I know. You could decide that since the game is rigged toward concentration, and since being excellent doesn't guarantee being chosen, there's no point in making anything at all. Plenty of people land there. I understand the temptation. But I think that's the wrong lesson. And here's the right one, and it hinges on a distinction we buried a few sections ago and are now going to dig back up. There are 2 different things that got tangled together. And untangling them changes everything. One is the craft, which is the actual work of making something good, the writing, the singing, the building, the thinking. And the other thing is the game, the contest for attention, followers, fame, the number going up. We treat these as the same thing. We assume that if the craft is good, the game will reward it. And so when the game doesn't reward us, we conclude the craft must be worthless. But the craft and the game are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. The whole tragedy of the excellent unknown is proof that they're not the same thing. And once you see them as separate, a door opens. Because the craft, the making of good things, is entirely within your control. And it's worth doing on its own terms, for its own reasons, regardless of what the game does. The game, which is being chosen, going viral, getting the $2 million of promotion, is largely outside your control, and pinning your sense of worth to it is like pinning your happiness to a slot machine. It'll pay out sometimes, unpredictably, just often enough to keep you feeding it. That's not a foundation. That's a trap with a jackpot bell. So, the move, the freeing, slightly rebellious move, is to play the game with your eyes open while refusing to let it own you. Keep making the thing. Make it as good as you possibly can, because excellence is real and satisfying, and it is yours. Put it out into the world. Take your shot. Buy your lottery ticket, sure. But hold the outcome loosely, the way you'd hold a lottery ticket. With hope, sure, but not with your whole identity. If the number comes up, wonderful. If it doesn't, you still made a good thing. And making good things was always the actual point. And no algorithm can take that away from you, because it was never the algorithm's to give. And here's the hopeful part. The concentration machine and the lottery are ferociously good at manufacturing superstars and keeping the masses playing. But they are strangely bad at one specific thing: the small, real, direct connection between a maker and the handful of people who genuinely love what they make. The barista has somewhere a few dozen people who would drive across the state to hear her sing in a garage. The 400 subscriber YouTuber has 400 people who actually, specifically care. Not 4 million passive scrollers, but 400 humans who show up. That's not nothing. In some ways, that's the only thing that was ever real. The superstar has a stadium full of people who mostly can't name 3 of their songs. Well, of course, it's not always like that, but I'm just saying. The obscure genius has a room full of people who know every word. I'm not sure the stadium is winning that trade as clearly as the spreadsheet thinks. Well, maybe I'm a little biased here, and I'm saying that just to comfort myself for being one of those not as lucky. But hear me out. The machine wants you to believe that anything short of superstardom is failure, because that belief keeps you pressing the lever. But that's the machine talking. It is not true. Not everyone can be a celebrity. The math genuinely, permanently forbids it. There is only so much concentrated attention to go around, and it will only ever land on a few. But nearly everyone can make something good and find their few hundred and mean something real to them. Those two facts are not in competition. We've just been trained to only see one of them. That's it. That's a problem. So here's where I've landed after all this. Fame is a machine, and now you can see its gears. It's not random, so stop waiting passively for luck. It's not a conspiracy, so stop marinating in resentment at a cabal that doesn't exist. It's a business model, coldly logical, and understanding it means you can finally stop taking its verdict personally. The machine's indifference to your work is not a judgment on your work. It's just a spreadsheet, doing what spreadsheets do. And a spreadsheet was never qualified to tell you whether what you made was good or whether making it was worth your one wild life. That question was always yours to answer. It still is. So go make the good thing, my friends. And now that we're reaching the end of the episode for today, I would like to leave you with some questions to discuss, maybe with your friends, with your family, or at least think about them on your own. My first question, and I want you to be honest. Before listening to this or reading this, which of the 2 bad answers was your default? Did you lean toward fame is random luck or fame is rigged by the shadowy few? And now that you've seen the spreadsheet in the middle, does either instinct still feel true, or did they always share the same blind spot? Second, I draw a hard line between the craft and the game. In your own life or work, how tangled up are those two things? Can you actually feel the difference between wanting to make something good and wanting to be seen for making it? Or have they fused so completely that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins? Third, we said the occasional overnight success story isn't a bug but load-bearing infrastructure, the lottery winner that keeps everyone else playing. Does knowing that change how you feel the next time you see one of those stories? Or does the hope survive the explanation? Because hope usually does. My fourth question, in the guru section, we argued that most people who made it genuinely can't tell which part of their success was skill and which was luck, and pass along stories in good faith. Is that more forgivable than deliberate fraud, or less? Where's the line between sharing what worked for you and selling a map you know is mostly blank? And finally, and this is the one worth mulling over, if you knew for certain, absolutely certain, that your best work would never be seen by more than a few hundred people, would you still make it? And if the honest answer is no, what does that tell you about who you've actually been making it for? So these are the questions I would like you to think about and discuss with your friends, with your family, with anybody who cares actually, or at least think about them on your own. But also I want to leave you with a small call to action. I want you to find one creator this week who is genuinely good and genuinely small. The writer with 3 reviews, the musician with 200 streams, the channel that clearly deserves better than its numbers. Don't just scroll past with a vague sense of injustice. Do the thing the machine won't do for them. Share their work. Buy the book. Leave the comment that says exactly what you loved. Be one of the few hundred who actually show up. You can't beat the concentration machine. Nobody can. But you can refuse to be one more person who only ever amplifies what's already loud. And if you're a maker yourself, keep making. Make it good. Put it out. Take your shot with your eyes wide open, and then go make the next thing without checking the number every 11 minutes to see if the world has decided you're worthy or not. It hasn't got the authority. It never did. Now, my friends, go make the good thing. That's what this episode of Between the Lines is all about. And I would like to thank you very much for listening to another episode from English Plus with Danny. I'll see you again next time.